All the brands that I was working with for almost a decade were following one traditional pattern of making collections season-wise. And I thought what a stupid idea that was, because trends are changing sooner, consumer mind shift is changing, and that's when I understood, there's a huge gap. It became easier for us to enter households because we cracked the 18 to 30, because strongly believe that today's youth is sort of the decision maker in his household. We've always believed that your consumer is your biggest celebrity. If you're able to solve for a consumer, he will definitely recommend you. A lot of people do ask me, what is Snitch about? And the only answer that I give is surprises.
Siddharth Dungawal is a new generation Indian entrepreneur and the founder and CEO of Snitch. Snitch is one of India's fastest growing men's fashion brands. Initially a B2B venture, Snitch pivoted to a direct-to-consumer model in 2020 during the pandemic. In just 5 years, it has scaled into a over 500 crore fashion tech powerhouse. Siddharth's agile mindset, design obsession, and a sharp eye for market white spaces has positioned him as a standout voice in India's fashion startup ecosystem. Pleasure to have you with us, Siddharth, at PwC's Future Unplugged.
Thanks so much for having me, Sanjeev.
I was reading about your story and it is nothing short of inspirational. Not just for me, but I'm sure for the many youth in the country who aspire. The entrepreneurial culture in India is getting better and better. So I think you're a role model for many of those, I must say. But I suppose the family business is jewelry and stuff. How did this transition happen from jewelry to apparel and that to men? How did that transition happen?
I mean, my journey basically started in 2009 with a very, very small retail store. So Bangalore was a manufacturing hub. There are a lot of factories around. I used to just go to these factories, pick up 200-300 pieces, get them to the store, sort of steam iron them and display them and sell it in retail. The store started doing really well. Since I was in college, I could attract a lot of youth. And, that's when a lot of other retailers were interested in buying similar sort of merchandise. That's when I got into trading. So I used to procure a lot more, distribute to other retailers and, keep the profits in my store. In 2012, something really strange happened. So while dealing with these factories, there was one particular factory who was ready to sell out the fabric as well. And this was, beautiful shirt fabric. I had a buyer ready. All I had to do was, invest the money, move the stock from place A to place B. But to my bad luck, that factory had an audit and they couldn't dispatch it for 45 days. And I was basically stuck with that fabric. Didn't have place to keep it, kept it at a garage. And made these small swatches of these fabrics and just distributed to all the retailers that I knew, asking them to bail me out of this situation. And there was one particular retailer in Bombay who had about 17-18 stores back then. He called me up and he was like, Sid, the fabric is fabulous, can you make shirts out of them? And I was stunned because production was not my background. He just told me, 200-300 piece bana ke bhej de. Agar chal gaya, I will bail you out of this situation. That's when the real hustle started. Found a very small unit, sat there for almost 8 weeks, understood the whole process of production, and then designed these 300 pieces myself and shipped it to Bombay. Right. Over the weekend, all those shirts flew off the counter. That's when I realized manufacturing is a much larger business. And from 2012 until 2019, I was sort of running a buying house wherein we used to design, manufacture, and deliver products across all the categories for a lot of brands. But back of the mind always had this passion of starting something of my own. And 2019 is when I decided to start Snitch. The reason for that was I was seeing, all the brands that I was working with for almost a decade were following one traditional pattern of making collections season-wise. And I thought what a stupid idea that was, because, trends are changing sooner, consumer mind shift is changing, and that's when I understood, there's a huge gap. Brands were coming into India and disrupting the traditional model of business. And I asked myself, why can't an Indian brand do that? And that was the whole thesis behind starting Snitch. We created a very strong differentiator there. We created an app saying, every day that we'll drop new styles. You could buy as low as 25 pieces and there's cash on delivery available. So that became a massive success, for retailers and for us. That sort of got us tremendous scale within 9 months, but the pandemic hit us. We were left with a huge inventory. the first thing that came on my mind was either go on a marketplace, try and liquidate stock, but then realized A, you wouldn't be making any money there. B, the brand will not get any recognition. That's when July 2020 is when we started our own website, barely about 35 products, team of 4 people, and 2 racks in the corner of the office was our warehouse. And since then, it's been a roller coaster, right? I mean, today it's a 4.5-year journey, and we are one of the leading menswear fashion brand in India.
So that's a fascinating story, I must say. But when you look at this segment, and we look at the customer of today, India is doing very, very well. The Indian demographic is speaking for itself. India is home to so many GCCs. Services is one of the biggest focus for India at this point in time. So the youth of the country is really coming to fore at this point in time, if I may. Has that been a big driver for Snitch because you're catching the young Indian, or is it more broader?
So I think first of all, the TAM is really, really large, right? Apparel, only men apparel, I would say, is more than 50,000 crore plus sort of a market. And if you add on categories like fragrance, shoes, bags, accessories, etc., then it goes beyond 70,000-80,000 crore sort of a market. So the TAM we knew is very, very large. When we started off, I think our focus was more on the age group of 18 to 30. So we were always digital first. Became very easy, for us to enter anyone's wardrobe through content and e-commerce. But as the journey sort of unfolded, and we started going offline as well, that is when we were surprised to see a lot of people in the age of 45 to 50, sort of consuming almost 2 or 3x in absolute value compared to an 18 to 30. It became easier for us to enter households because we cracked the 18 to 30, because strongly believe that today's youth is sort of the decision maker in his household.
Yeah, no, you're right, absolutely right. I mean, there were days when I was to take my son shopping. I think it's turning very quickly. It's certainly my daughter, and I'm sure it's going to be my son soon who's going to take me shopping. So I think that's absolutely right. But let me just ask you a little bit, since you spoke about your journey and some of the early trials and tribulations, if I may. Starting pre-COVID and then dealing with COVID, and now post-COVID, right? I mean, you've almost seen, I would say, 3 big season shifts, right? Apart from what you call seasons. Do you think that there has been a difference in the way your customers have responded?
I think not only pandemic, there were 3 major revolutions that happened.
Right.
One, I think, was UPI. Second was the pandemic, and then the third was GST. All these 3 played very, very key roles in every sort of consumer brand's journey.
Right.
The pandemic sort of did that mind shift of going online, trying digital first, and became very easy for you to enter anyone's household because offline was anyways completely shut.
Right.
You go across the country in a unified way, and sort of unlocked a lot of doors open for you. And UPI, just sort of changed everything through digital payments. So I think all of these things have created a very, very large impact. But to your point, I think consumer behavior did shift. Post-pandemic, I think they are more digitally available, and the ways of marketing has changed, the ways of storytelling has changed, everything has changed.
The reason that I also asked you the question was that it's a hyper competitive space, and there are big brands which are already there. So when you don't have access, you just play safe. That okay, can I just the big brand which I know? I mean, can I just go and buy some from? You have now created a space for yourself during this period. Right. So how did that happen? And that's what I'm really interested on. That how did you create a space for yourself when there were so many big brands which are already there in a time when the customers' minds were so disrupted?
So I think there are various reasons, but I'll just highlight upon a few. We knew there are more than 500 million people on Instagram, which is open to all, right? You could tomorrow start a brand and be available to them. So we knew that we had to crack digital content, which we did fairly well enough. Second, when it came to consumers in the age group of 18 to 30, we spoke to a lot of them, trying to understand where do they shop from. But the names that came out were more like their fathers or grandfathers sort of brands, which they were not sort of resonating with, and the others were probably international brands or some brands on marketplaces.
Exactly.
So we knew the sort of space was like a white space. All we had to do is deliver great product, give a great experience, whether it's online and offline, and that sort of helped us get into every household.
But let me ask you a question. I mean, if you look at the D2C segment largely, which is where I think the journey began, commercially it has certain challenges, right? I mean, there could be a significant amount of returns.
CACs are expensive.
It has significant economic challenges.
Yeah.
Did you experience some of those as well?
So we knew, and I would tell anyone who wants to sort of start a consumer brand, keep your gross margins really low and build a great product.
Right.
That helps your CAC, stay low always. And coming back to the tech point, we always knew that we were a digital first brand.
Yeah.
We had to be digitally available to every consumer.
Yeah.
We built our own creator platform. Today you go on the app, and if you're an influencer with even 1,000 followers, you could just start creating content for us. On your question on unit economics, I think keeping your gross margins low and building world class product, your CAC is never going to go up.
Yeah. I mean, who would have imagined that, Instagram followership would be the GTM? And today it is. Today it is exactly that. I mean, again, I have to say, my son keeps telling me about YouTubers who have significant followership and, are making huge amounts of money, and, they're huge influencers for you, huge go-to-market for you. But, just on that, you also then moved away from a brand which was D2C to today you're doing a lot of offline as well. What was the trigger to get into offline at that point in time?
So honestly, there was no trigger. I was passing by a street in Jainagar, saw a to-let board. It was written 2,200 square foot and to-let and a contact number. Right. There was absolutely no retail present on that entire street. I just called up team and I was like, offline jana hai. I've seen a store, and they were like, what's wrong with you? Why are you asking this stupid question? And I was like, in my mind, I knew that, the rental was just 3,65,000. Even if we did 7 lakhs in net sales, we'll be profitable. And
so
that
it was not
the best.
Too capital intensive.
Nothing, right? I mean, it was capital intensive because we had to put in a lot of money in the capex. But in my mind, I thought even if you're able to do 7 to 10 lakhs in net sales, the store will be profitable and there will be a payback. It took us about 2 months to design the store. July 15th of 24 is when we launched.
Right.
There was no sort of mega campaign that we did.
Yeah.
Or no large influencer, no celebrity called. We just messaged our consumers saying, Snitch is coming up with their first offline stores. Yeah. And within 4 o'clock of us opening the store, we had to barricade it because we couldn't allow consumers inside. It was packed. And the sort of brand love that we saw, because being on a street where there is absolutely no retail, it is brand love that could pull in consumers. That sort of gave us confidence that offline could become really, really massive. And post that is when we doubled down on retail, and over the last 8 months we've opened more than 50 stores across 24 different cities.
So no celebrity endorsements. That's to begin with. I mean, that's
no. I mean, we've always believed that your consumer is your biggest celebrity. If you're able to solve for a consumer, he will definitely recommend you. So I think we always knew that celebrity endorsement for a brand like ours is not essential. We could do it through great content and consumers themselves.
So I'm certain that with all the he's that you have made more fashionable, I'm sure there are a lot of she's who are thinking, when will you create certain products for them? Is that on the anvil?
To be honest, it took me 17 years to understand what not to do in life. So, I mean, having said that, I think today our focus is only on menswear. We know the TAM is very, very large. There's a lot more that we need to do. At the right time, maybe we would think of women's wear But at the moment, no. We want to focus on menswear because we know that there are a lot more that needs to be solved.
Got it. Got it. So, Siddharth, you mentioned a few things which I would just want to pick up on as you were narrating your story. I think the first one that you picked up was customer loyalty.
Yeah.
Now, from the numbers that I gather about customer loyalty that Snitch has, I think they must be one of the highest. How do you manage that?
I think loyalty comes through, like I said, right? Great product, great experience, and being true to whatever you promised. If you're just doing these three things consistently, then customers would love you, and that's when they become loyal. If you have a great product but bad experience, and no matter how many freebies you give, no consumer is going to ever sort of stay loyal to you.
Right.
And there have been times that we've seen a decline in sort of our loyalty as well, and the reason was on us because we goofed up with a lot of experiences, took those into learnings and built technologies around it, which has helped us build a very, very strong loyal community today.
So one other question that I have, one of the things that you mentioned was very glowingly was the team that you've put together, which has really enabled you to get to where you are. Tell us a little bit more about them and what is the culture that you're building in your organization?
I think, I've been fortunate enough that at every step we got in the right sort of resource. And, they sort of took it on themselves, took the brand, sort of being their own, and then started building then in a very, very small room. Chetan is our CMO. Again, I know him from almost 17, 18 years. He was one of the first, folks that I called up saying that, hey, we want to take Snitch online. Would you want to join? And I knew that he was smart, and I knew he was into the advertising space, and he had a great taste and choice of fashion, and that's it. He came in, we learned it on YouTube. How do you create ads? How do you sort of work on SEOs? Everything is something that we learned on YouTube, and everyone like Praveen, who's our ops guy, again, came in more like a customer support manager, and then solved everything on the go, learned it, in the process, and to a more mature team now, wherein, we have Aniket, who's our CBO, Maruti is our CTO, a lot of other great folks, who have joined us. I think team is probably the only one North Star that can probably make your business disruptive. Because if one mind could create speed, and just imagine 10, 15, 20 minds creating that same sort of speed, it could become a rocket ship. And speed is something a lot of people underestimate. But I've been a strong believer of speed. Anything that you want to do, you need to just do it really quick and keep optimizing on the go.
Right. So I think on that note, I'd like to pivot towards this journey that you have had over the last 6 years. I'm sure that it was not all easy. I'm sure there are multiple challenges that you navigated. There must have been some tough times. Are there one or two that you'd like to tell us which stood out for you?
I think a lot of things. So when we started off, to be honest, we were more like a boxer brand, right? We were selling boxers because we had about only 35 or 40 products in our warehouse. It was peak of COVID. We listed about 5 or 6 boxers and 30 odd shirts. The boxers flew off in 3 or 4 minutes. That was surprising, and we then had to double down and make that entire shift in our supply chain, convincing factories who were making shirts to start manufacturing boxers. They had to sort of shift their entire machinery and and entire needles, entire layout of the batch, etc., and sort of do that. But in the course of journey, I think a lot of learnings were to sort of rely on data more than gut. I think that's something I have personally sort of understood. And I think it is again very, very relevant to the journey that you are at. I mean, 0 to 1 is always 90% hustle, 10% maybe data.
Right.
And as you keep moving toward closer to that 100, 1000 sort of a number, the things shift. So I think again there we've been fortunate enough that we have people who look at data very, very closely and stop me wherever I tend to take a lot of gutsy and risky decisions. So I think the greatest learning for me has been keep your ears open. Even if it's an intern, he's smart and that's why he's here, and probably, hear him out and give a thought.
So you've taken no as an answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think one other thing which I would certainly, Siddharth, would want you to touch upon is that as an entrepreneur who's, made it big, I'm sure there's a long path ahead. From a advocacy standpoint, from India enabling young entrepreneurs to succeed, are there one or two things that you would like India to do more as a nation? So that more and more people could be encouraged to take the entrepreneurial path. We have huge demographic dividend, but not everybody can find a job which they really love doing. Right? Many would wish to become entrepreneurs. What can India do to enable that?
I think the opportunity in India right now is humongous. We just need great people who could take up challenges. The first baseline is already created. For example, when e-commerce happened, there was someone who actually went to every sort of consumer and digitalized their entire inventory. And then it became easier for all of us today, right? Because everything is readily available. So I think infrastructure is one of the most important things that, needs to be built. And, on top of which, whether it is, digitalizing everything or, towards a large B2B businesses that people want to build requires a great infrastructure. I think from an opportunity perspective, there is a lot that people could do. Just imagine there are these so many consumer brands, so many enablers who are sort of building great brands. You need someone to even build products. B2B is a business that is not so sexy, not so cool, but it is loads of money. Right? I've been doing that for 15 years. I know what sort of business that you could create. So someone who could just be the person who's going to sit on a horse that's running really fast and just supplying him product, could reach faster than anyone else. So I think there are a lot of opportunities, whether it is, consumer brand, whether it's technology, whether it's EV, and all of these things. I think the sort of baseline is already there now for anyone to come in and build.
I gather the community is very strong and it's willing to help people, mentor them, coach them.
I think, I was fortunate enough to be a part of the Startup Mahakumbh that happened in Delhi last week. I was a part of, the D2C organizing committee. The sort of, hunger in people's eyes that I've seen there to become entrepreneurs, I've never seen that ever in India.
Wonderful.
People asking questions, they're entrepreneurship is now being celebrated, which is a great movement, right? It was always cricketers, Bollywood.
Yes.
So I think entrepreneurship is being celebrated now, and everyone needs to just believe themselves and then probably start.
I think I'd want to understand from you what next for you. As you said, a lot of headroom for you. Maybe women as a customer tomorrow, also global maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, our tagline says "Made in India for the world," which obviously means that we have huge aspirations of going global. But I think there's a lot more headroom left in India. I mean, offline is very, very new. We just have 50 stores. I think we could do 500 plus easily. And, of course, there's women's wear, international markets we would want to pilot soon, gather some learnings and start building, infrastructure teams in different countries and start building them. So I think exciting journey for us. It's just the start. We've got a great team. It's a sort of business that sort of requires you to do just the basics really, really right. And it's the most boring thing to do every single day. But you need to just stay consistent, stay focused, and just keep doing that most boring thing every single day.
Do you think you also want to surprise your customers as to what's coming next? Because that's some of the experience that we get with some of these.
I mean, the thought process was very, very clear, right? Every single traditional brand that has been built is being built through one anecdote that they've set in the consumer's mind, right? That this is what I stand for, right? And a lot of people do ask me, what is Snitch about? And the only answer that I give is surprises. Because every time you walk into the store, we want to surprise consumers with delight. Saying, oh, suddenly, they see this is available. And then, next week you walk in, you're like, again, there's freshness every single week whenever you enter the store or, online. So, I mean, that sort of creates consumers' loyalty as well as create some sort of FOMO in their mind, that if they don't buy it today, it may go off the shelf probably within a week.
So, I would really, Siddharth, on that note, maybe two final questions from my side. The first one, something that I've done over the years, so I certainly wish to ask you that question. I do believe that capital is today much more readily available than ever before, and there are many pools of capital, including family offices and others, HNIs, etc., which are available domestically for entrepreneurship. What's been your journey like? When you have sought capital for your business, what's been your journey like so far?
No, I mean, for us, it was not that easy, to be honest. Apparel is a category that, most of them did not ever believe could be very, very large. I think there are barely 5 or 7 or 10 D2C brands that may have crossed even the 200 crore mark. So apparel stigma has always been in in the capital world's mind. But I think now things are changing with, their reasons are very reasonable because they've seen a lot of not so successful stories in the past. And, it's a heavy, sort of inventory plus capital intensive sort of a business. But the beauty of it is also that it's a cash cow, right? Your receivables are almost zero, your payables are almost 60, 70, 90, whatever sort of timelines that you want to build on goodwill, it becomes readily available. And, the cash flow is always great. So now I think, mindset of even the capital market on apparel is changing.
Right. Well, I mean, I certainly would like to believe that more and more capital will be available because, many of the family offices, HNIs, and of course investors, venture investors, even others that I speak to tell us that they believe in the India entrepreneurship story. So I think there has been a shift.
Absolutely.
I would like to believe.
Yeah.
The very last question, and see, I mean, we run almost a 30,000 people organization. One of the feedback that I always get when people respond to our surveys is that they love being with the firm because they believe we are a responsible firm and we do give back to society a little bit. When you think of your customer and you have significant customer loyalty, do you think that focus that you have on areas like sustainability and purpose also drive certain amount of customer loyalty?
I think all of this will happen over a period of time. Today, I'm sure it has taken almost, 2, 3, 4 decades for you to sort of build that entire thesis in every person who's working at PwC, on whatever sort of social and, CSR activities that you do. For us, the beginning has been very, very small. First, it was transition from plastic to maybe, go towards a non-plastic zone. Towards CSR activities, we're just doing our own foundation, which is called Doing Well by Being Good. I think it is very, very critical and very, very close to my heart because I am a strong believer that unless you could create impact in everyone's lives, whether it's consumers, whether it is people working for you, or whether it is India as an ecosystem, right? And if you're not able to give back in any sort of ways, maybe, by talk, you could sort of inspire a lot of people by, monetary benefit, someone who needs it, or just by making them proud of working inside the organization. So I think all of these things are something that I'm really passionate about. I think with time, we want to evolve. We want to do a lot more. And you would see that happening over the course of this journey.
Siddharth, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks,
you have created a fantastic business in less than 7 years, 6 years to be precise, I suppose, right now. And there is so much ahead. I think the focus that you mentioned on creating the right team, the right culture is something that stood out for me. Being purposeful really stood out for me. being inclusive and being able to challenge yourself, withstanding some of the problems or challenges that you had, etc., and believing on the opportunity that India holds for its constituents. I think it's a fantastic story.
Yeah, I think, honestly speaking, I think this is just the start for India. The next 2 decades, every possible door is open. You just need someone with some sort of madness and some sort of risk-taking ability to sort of just go out there and explore things. Whether it is the B2B markets, whether it is D2C, whether it is quick com, whether it is just being an enabler for all of these three, the opportunity is humongous.
Siddharth, more power to you.
Thanks,
and hopefully
thanks,
we come back again in a few years' time.
Absolutely.
When you have achieved more of what you are aspiring to do. It's been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Sanjeev.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Future Unplugged. Stay tuned for the next one coming soon.